Greetings and welcome to another exciting edition of Poet to Poet. I'm Robert Dunn. I'll be guiding you through this extravaganza. And it is rather an extravaganza because we're going to be spreading a lot of joy and light on this program. Now, don't make a face because you set us up for me. We have, believe it or not, Chuck Joy on the far side there, and we have Kate Light in the middle. Moments like that make the show worthwhile, when I can get away with a line like that. But if you've been watching us for any length of time, you would know that about me. Anyway, we're coming to you from the Orange Bear in Lower Manhattan, where all the City Hall employees come out and get bombed after a hard day's legislation. And what better way to relax after something like that than to have a little quality poetry? So we'll start with Kate Light in the middle here. She's been in a number of very impressive magazines like the Paris Review, the Western Humanities Review, the Washington Post Book World, the Wisconsin Review. You get a lot of reviews, don't you? The Formalist, the Carolina Quarterly, the Christian Science Monitor, Feminist Studies, and I can keep going. We're about to land her for our magazine, Medicinal Purposes, Literary Review, something of which we are very proud. And let's see, and you have a book, The Laws of Falling Bodies. Let's see, let's hold this up.
Minus the tape flags.
Oh, okay.
Which are mine.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Here it is.
There we go. Mm-hmm. Now, these laws, were they passed by the city council?
Actually, this refers to Galileo's laws of falling bodies.
I thought it was some people I know.
Yeah. Well, I certainly am aware of the puns. The puns are a useful part of this book.
Well, I wasn't actually thinking of the puns. I was kind of taking it literally.
Oh.
How about throwing a body over the edge here, and let's see how it falls.
Okay. I guess that means read a poem.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what that means. So I will. This is a part of a set called Five Urban Love Songs. These are poems that take place in different cities, written for the same person. And I'm going to read the first two. A lot of the poems in my book are actually sonnets, and there's few villanelles thrown in. There's even, God forbid, a sestina. But these could be well-kept secrets because they're a little bit disguised. And this poem is it's a sonnet but extended, and then the next is a sonnet. First one is called Central Park, so obviously that's a New York poem. Can one think in sunglasses in the park? Think with the children playing and the adult banter and someone smoking, and experiment in ink through the invading dogs and toddler gallivanter? Escape the ice-cold beer and Snapple hawking, and the ones who target you when you're alone, and so they stare or come over talking. But how can I, who've been rather accident-prone, forget that it was just that dappled fate and chance, and perhaps a shade of arrogance, that brought me you, and though I tried to shake you off, don't bother me, I'm mean, I'm grieving, the discouragement didn't seem to take, so I came to accept that you weren't leaving. Then I'll let these clowns distract me with their dance. There's a weird wisdom in persistence. I'll stick to my mount of grass and moss and clover, writing things down and thinking things over. And I'll just read San Francisco. San Francisco. Pierced tongue, do-it-yourself lisp. What is this? Penitence? Native wisdom? Mutilation or signal, I'll do anything? Was it a dare? Or a careful plan? Did it sting or ache? And does the food get caught? And should such a person work in a restaurant? Customers' stomachs can turn, or does desire turn to her, to wish to feel the fire glide over the silver, or is it gold pin? And you, my darling, with your endless speculation, is she gay? Does he or she want you or me, or either way? Why do you need to know? I am here. This is my body. Eat, unwrap, disappear.
From Rikers Island to Alcatraz with Kate Light. I can't think of a more charming companion to make such a journey with. Out of curiosity, what were the other towns?
Besides, well, actually, two are San Francisco, and one is L.A., and one is sort of a flashback that takes place nowhere, and then further on in the book, there's one that takes place in Florence.
All those cities with the same two people. You both must have a lot of staying power.
Well, we did, or maybe we didn't.
Is this how you is this grand tour how you got into poetry in the first place, or was there another reason for taking up this art?
I always wrote poetry. As a child, I read poetry, and my father was an English. He's now retired. He was an English professor. There were books everywhere in the house, and I took to Shakespeare's sonnets at a really early age. So I think, and then I didn't write formal poetry. I wrote just whatever, free verse, and then years later it sort of came around. Though I don't only write sonnets, but it just sort of came around to be a really natural thing for me, and I think it's because of that early attraction.
Shakespeare at an early age, just unlike the rest of us, Chuck and myself, who started out with classic comics and Lord knows what. Is that not so, Chuck?
Classic comics, yes. Any kind of comics. So, yeah.
Well, I had some
Sergeant
normal
Rock.
stuff too.
That's good to know. Will you give us now a normal poem or an abnormal poem?
Oh. Okay. Well, here's a new abnormal poem, I think. Sometimes they're a little kind of abstract. This is so new that it's not even typed up. Called Gravity's Dream. Gravity's trembling blue dream of sky, of leap without landing, of above, of fly, of fleet and seamless scrawl to where, to who, to how, to when, to why. I think if you inhabited the low and deep, the weighted and responsible, the keep, you too would dream of awe and yes and letting go and no more no and pulling, landing down below. Bass lines dream of treble, trill, and fanciful and troubadour and even shrill, while such a frilly one as she moons to her dark and rooted he. Levity's dream of sitting still and gravity's beam. Inside a hill, it reaches only to the inner rim. She longs to light where his lost burnings dim. It's a bit of a tongue twister, that one, actually.
Yes, especially since it's handwritten and the gravity looked like gravy for a moment.
Yeah, Gravy's Dream.
Well, your poetry is very flavorful. Now, I understand you're also a professional violinist.
That's true.
You didn't happen to bring the violin with you, did you?
No, the violin's having a little vacation.
It ran out of rosin, I suppose.
Yes.
Have you ever coaxed a poem out of your violin?
I have. I actually had written a poem in the shape of a violin, in the shape of half of a violin, actually, about a loss, because I had a long period with the violin when it was ill. It's an old violin. It's about 300 years old, and
Really?
it goes through its difficult stages.
I gather you got it used.
I got it used, yeah. Definitely.
All right. Chuck will play the balalaika later.
Right, that'll be the first time.
That's hard to say, actually, but
Yeah.
well, there's a first time for everything.
Yes.
How about another poem?
Oh, thanks. Don't mind if I do. Let's see. What'll it be? A new one? How about I read the poem that will be in medicinal purposes? Would that be all
Yes,
right?
that sounds like fun.
Kind of a little preview. It's called He. He was the main character in the drama. He with the captain's hat or juggler's grin. He riding the camel or feeding the llama. He the dawn the new day ushered in. And the composer at the piano was he, and the flicker of the remote control, and the swimmer in the Adriatic Sea, the gambler pulling up the lucky roll. And he stood back and surveyed the scene and cast the vote that broke the tie. And in the conflict was the go-between, but the appreciative witness, she was I. Standby understudy, prop holder least and last, he was the star, and I rounded out the cast.
We don't usually do this on the show, but there is a secret message. This one of our friends of long standing, and I'm not going to tell you who it is, but if you can write in and identify that person, you'll get a prize. a surprise contest, you see.
Wait, well, really? My poem is a contest?
Oh, yeah, quite a catalyst. Yes.
Okay.
All right, now that we've gotten everybody excited, have you got something mellow to calm them down?
Oh, mellow. Okay. Let's see. This is a Villanelle. It's called Load Up, and this one, I think it sort of sums up my duo life here. Load up. Some spirit whispered in my ears. Some fairy pricked my arm when I was spawned. You'll need to carry things around for years. You'll be a pack animal with 2 careers. There will be much of which you're over fond. Load up, the spirit whispered in my ears. Too bad you won't consort with gondoliers who'll take your goods aside and glide them swanned and carry them around for you for years. Enough stuff to fill up hemispheres. You'll be a sort of rooted vagabond. Load up, the spirit whispered in my ears. Papers, recordings, souvenirs, assorted, hoarded. You'll be in junk bondage to things you've carried round for years. May as well enjoy it. Cheers? It's the feelings that exhaust. Relive, respond, load up, some spirit whispered in my ears. You'll need to carry this around for years.
I probably will, too. Do you have any unfulfilled ambitions in poetry?
In poetry? Oh, well, I'd like to write a musical. I don't know if that counts.
No, it could. Do you have any ideas?
I've had a few pass through my mind over time, none of which really stuck, but...
Let me see. Let's see if we can spin one.
Okay.
There's this violinist, see, and she plays in the New York City Opera Orchestra, and she writes poetry on the side. Sometimes she writes poetry while the violins have a string of rest measures.
Yeah, it's true. Oh,
in the music.
Well, okay, it is true, but it sounds a little dull for a musical, I'm afraid. Have to have a little more action than that.
We could make it a rock musical.
Yeah.
We could do it on a pinball machine. No, that's been done. We'll have to think of something else.
Well, I'm open to suggestions.
What's the most peculiar thing that's ever happened to you at a poetry reading?
Oh, the most peculiar thing was showing up to, this was not long ago actually, showing up to a bookstore somewhere in New Jersey, and having the people say, well, we were going to meet and have our poetry group, but okay, if you really want to give a reading, I guess it's okay.
They didn't know you were coming?
Yeah. And so I thought, oh, well, I'm glad you're so excited to see me. That was a little tough.
Well, if they knew you were coming, they would have baked a cake. We were excited to see you. We're still excited to see you. We want to thank you, Kate Light, for coming on Poet to Poet, and we'll be back in a moment with Chuck Joy, so don't go away.
Thank you.